Part 3. Causality plus a pinch of mysticism. It is going to be a construction job, fitting bits together. You will have to find the Frankenstein in you to make it work. Your magpie instincts must come to the fore. If you think this just sounds like a recipe for some horrible monster, be reassured by us, all music can only be the sum or part total of what has gone before. Every number one song ever written is only made up from bits from other songs. There is no lost chord, no changes untried, no extra notes to the scale or hidden beats to the bar. There is no point in searching for originality. In the past, most writers of songs spent months in their lonely rooms strumming their guitars, or bands in rehearsals have ground their way through endless riffs before arriving at the song that takes them to the very top. Of course, most of them would be mortally upset to be told that all they were doing was leaving it to chance before they stumbled upon the tried and tested. They have to believe it is through this sojourn that they arrive at the Grail, the great and original song that the world will be unable to resist. So why don't all songs sound the same? Why are some artists great, write dozens of classics that move you to tears, say it like it's never been said before, make you laugh, dance, blow your mind, fall in love, take to the streets and riot? Well, it's because, although the chords, notes, harmonies, beats, and words have all been used before, their own soul shines through. Their personality demands attention. This doesn't just come via the great vocalist or virtuoso instrumentalist. The techno sound of Detroit, the most totally linear program music ever, lacking any human musicianship in its execution, reeks of sweat, sex, and desire. The creators of that music just press a few buttons and out comes a million years of pain and lust. We await the day with relish that somebody dares to make a dance record that consists of nothing more than an electronically programmed bass drum beat that continues playing the fours monotonously for 8 minutes. Then, when somebody else brings one out using exactly the same bass drum sound and at the same beats per minute, we will all be able to tell which is the best, which inspires the dance floor to fill the fastest, which has the most sex and the most soul. There is no doubt one will be better than the other. What we are basically saying is, if you have anything in you, anything unique, what others might term as originality, it will come through whatever the component parts used in your future number one are made from. Creators of music who desperately search originality usually end up with music that has none, because no room for their spirit has been left to get through. The complete history of the blues is based on one chord structure, hundreds of thousands of songs using the same 3 basic chords in the same pattern. Through this seemingly rigid formula has come some of the 20th century's greatest music. In our case, we used parts from 3 very famous songs, Gary Glitter's Rock and Roll, the Doctor Who theme, and the Sweets' Blockbuster, and pasted them together. Neither of us played a note on the record. We know that the finished record contains as much of us in it as if we had spent 3 months locked away somewhere trying to create our masterwork. The people who bought the record and who probably do not give a blot about the inner souls of Rockman Rock or King Boy D knew that they were getting a record of supreme originality. Don't worry about being accused of being a thief. Even if you were to, you have not got the time to take the trial and error route. The simplest thing to do would be to flick through your copy of the Guinness Book of Hits, find a smash from a previous era, and do a cover of it, dressing it up in the clothes of today. Every year, there is at least a couple of artists who get their debut number one this way. From the 80s, we have already had Dave Stewart and Barbara Gaskin, It's My Party, Roxy Music, Jealous Guy, Soft Cell, Tainted Love, Paul Young, Wherever I Lay My Hat, Captain Sensible, Happy Talk, Neil, Hole in My Shoe, Tiffany, I Think We're Alone Now, Wet, 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 With a Little Help, Yaz, The Only Way Is Up. There are, however, the negative facts in taking this route. Using an already proven song can give you a false sense of security when you are in the studio recording. You can end up under the illusion that the song is such a classic that whatever you do, the song itself will be able to carry it through. You tend to lose your objective in the production of your version. The all-important radio producers hate nothing more than a classic song covered badly. The classic oldie, while fulfilling all the golden rules in pop, might have lyrical content that may only ever relate to one period in pop history. There have been numerous past number ones where this has been the case. Scott McKenzie, San Francisco, the Beach Boys, Good Vibrations, the Beatles, All You Need Is Love, Mott the Hoople, All the Young Dudes, Mars, Pump Up the Volume. Unless there is a revival of the zeitgeist of times past where the lyric in some way makes sense again, These songs should be stayed well clear of. Sometimes almost the opposite can happen. By covering a cleverly picked old song, it can be re-recorded in such a way that it is now more relevant to today's new record buyers, both lyrically and musically, than the original was to the past generations of hitmakers. Tiffany's I Think We're Alone Now and Yaz's The Only Way Is Up are both perfect examples of this in 1988. The original of I Think We're Alone Now by Tommy Rowe and the late 70s cover by the Ruby News were classics for the discerning, but could not compete in the UK marketplace of their day. The other negative in doing a cover version is you will lose all the writing credit. This means you will earn no publishing money on the record, however many it sells. We will explain later the mysteries of publishing, but for now just take it from us that having a number one with a cover, as opposed to your own song, is the equivalent of throwing away a minimum of £10,000. There is no denying that in picking the right smash from the past and recording it well will result in a surefire success. The producers of the daytime shows at Radio 1 will have to only hear 30 of the opening bars of your record to know that there will be a few slots in their shows for it. The housewives at home and the husbands on the building site will be singing along with it immediately. It's not going to take them 3 or 4 listens before they decide whether they like the song. That decision was made long before you ever thought of having a number one. As for the current 7-inch single buying generation, who might have never heard the song before, they will automatically be given the chance to hear the record 3 or 4 times on the radio. If there is not a cover that takes your fancy, the trick is to construct your song out of disguised, modified, and enhanced parts of previous smashes, so that when those Radio 1 producers, TV youth program researchers, and multiple chain record store stock buyers will subliminally warm to your track and feel at ease with it. We obviously went the middle route in not doing a straight cover, but in doing the above so blatantly, we had to give away the majority of our publishing, thus losing a sizable chunk of the readies. Groove. The first of the component parts you are going to need to find is the irresistible dance floor groove. Before we go any further, we had better define groove. It is basically the drum and bass patterns and all the other musical sounds on the record that are neither hummable or sing-alongable to. Groove is the underlying sex element of the record, and we are afraid for UK number ones this can never be left too rabidly raw on the 7-inch format. It upsets our subliminal national moral code. We can cope with smut, but not grind. Of course, there are the odd exceptions. In the same way that our sexual fantasies change and develop, sometimes double back over a period of months, so do our dance floor tastes in groove. It is always on the move, searching for the ultimate turn-on, and when you are almost there, it's off again and you're left looking for a new direction. Black American records have always been the most reliable source of dance groove. These records, down through the years, have inevitably laid so much emphasis on the altar of groove and so very little into fulfilling the other golden rules that they very rarely break through into the UK top 10, let alone making it to the number 1 spot. A byproduct of this situation is that gangsters of the groove from Bo Diddley on down believe they have been ripped off, not only by the business, but by all the artists that have followed on from them. This is because the copyright laws that have grown over the past 100 years have all been developed by whites of European descent, and these laws state that 50% of the copyright of any song should be for the lyrics, the other 50% for the top line sung melody. Groove doesn't even get a look in. If the copyright laws had been in the hands of blacks of African descent, at least 80% would have gone to the creators of the groove, the remainder split between the lyrics and the melody. If perchance you are reading this, and you are both black and a lawyer, make a name for yourself. Right the wrongs. The best place to find the groove that 7-inch single buyers will want to be tapping their toes to in 3 months' time is to get down to the hippest club in your part of the country that is playing import American black dance records. The unknown track the DJ plays that gets both the biggest response on the floor and has you joining the throng will have the groove you are looking for. Either try and get the name of the track that night, or at least remember some standout feature of the record. If you are lucky to have a specialist dance shop near you, they should have this record you are after. If there is neither a suitable club or specialist dance shop in your part of the country, don't throw in the towel, as this is where the dance music compilations we have instructed you to buy on Monday morning come in. Stick them on in the record player, turn it up loud, and get lost in the groove. Leave your mind on the bookshelf where it belongs. Feel yourself if need be, but keep going until you feel the force and are lost in the music. When the only answer to the question, can you feel it, is yes. Pure dance music, if it has any lyrical content at all, will only deal in the emotions experienced within the four walls of a club late at night. Basically, desire, and more importantly, that area which is beyond desire at the very center of the human psyche. Everything else is meaningless. Any creator of pure dance music that is attempting to communicate any other subject should be treated with deep suspicion. With the danger of getting too carried away on our own pretensions, we state that it is only through dance music and dancing we are able to get momentarily back to the garden. Of course, in the clear light of day, this is all very silly. At the time of writing, it is the summer of love 1988, and we would seriously advise anybody in search of the groove to spend the night at the ubiquitous Acid House event. Drink very little alcohol, lose your mind on the dance floor, and shake your hands in the air till you feel it. Of course, drugs are something we cannot be seen to advocate, but we understand that a certain very expensive narcotic makes this a lot clearer. Can you feel it? Of course you do. By the time you read this, Acid House will already be history, but it is always easy to find out what's happening. There is an army of eager young media types out there doing the research for you and writing it all up in any one of the competing youth-oriented journals. We, of course, used the glitter beat, which was more by accident than design. It being the most club-footed white beat going, it goes against the grain of what we are advising above. We think the British love-hate relationship with that said beat can only be tried once a decade. They won't take it any more than that. On a far less metaphysical level, groove has to be understood in the practical terms of beats, bars, and BPMs. Except on that very rare occasion, all pop music is rhythmically based on having 4 beats to the bar. You naturally tap your toe to the beat, and every time you tap your toe 4 times is 1 bar. You naturally clap your hands or snap your fingers on every second beat, twice every bar. The speed of modern records is measured by the amount of beats per minute there are in any given record. Using BPMs as a measurement has only come into existence since the early 80s, since which time nearly all records have been made with the use of a click track, electronic metronome. This enables any musicians who may play on a track to keep in perfect time. In bygone times, records might have speeded up or slowed down throughout the performance, thus an accurate BPM could not be quoted. Knowing the BPM of each record in his collection is all important to a club DJ, so that he can be sure that when he is programming each section of the night, he won't jolt the dancers on the floor by suddenly dropping from a 124 BPM record down to an 87 BPM record, then back up to one that is 114 BPM. Heavy acid sessions the exception. The different styles in modern club records are usually clustered around certain BPMs. 120 is the classic BPM for house music and its various variants, although it is beginning to creep up. High NRG is always above 125, but very rarely has it reached the dizzy heights of 140 BPMs. Rap records traditionally vary between 90 and 110, but in an attempt to stay with the current Summer 88 domination of house, are speeding up. In doing this, rap has lost some of its slow, mean, and cool strut feel. LL Cool J or Rakim would never be seen dead trying to rap at 120 BPM, but those whose commercial instincts are more important than their homeboy cool may attempt it to keep their hit single profile high. The classic rare groove track that found favor throughout 1987 and into early 88 were all recorded in the early 70s before click tracks and drum machines held sway to bay, and are all oozing around and below 90 BPMs, guaranteeing plenty of slippery grunt and grind. In this day and age, no song with a BPM over 135 will ever have a chance of getting to number 1. The vast majority of regular club goers will not be able to dance to it and still look cool. The vast majority of indie bands, however large their cult following is, who play what various music journalists often describe as perfect classic pop, will never see the inside of the top 5 for one reason alone. They perform all their songs above the 135 BPM ceiling. Their love traumas and balls of confusion of hate and bile all rush by at the same immeasurable blur of a BPM. As we have already mentioned, the golden rule for a classic number 1 single is intro, verse 1, chorus 1, verse 2, chorus 2, breakdown section, double chorus, outro. Each of these sections will be made up of bars and groupings of multiples of 4. So you might have an intro containing 4 bars, a verse 16 bars, and a chorus 8 bars. At times, the first verses can be double-length verses, or the second chorus a double length. These sort of decisions are not going to have to be finally made until you reach the mixing stage of the record, when the engineer will have to start editing the whole track to make it work in the most concise and exciting way possible within 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Hopefully at some time in the remaining days of the week, you will have been able to get out to the club and found the groove you need, been able to buy it on vinyl and get it home. It has to be the 12-inch version, as this will have whole great tracts of raw groove where each of the component parts of the groove are broken down and left exposed for your engineer and programmer to study and imitate when it comes to recording your record. Do not make the mistake of going clubbing a habit. It is a way of life that people can get trapped in. They begin to believe if they are not continually going to clubs, they will miss out on something. The only thing they do miss out on is themselves. Once in a club, you have to leave your mind outside. Chorus and title. The next thing you have got to have is a chorus. The chorus is the bit in the song that you can't help but sing along with. It is the most important element in a hit single because it is the part that most people carry around with them in their head when there is no radio to be heard, no video on TV, and they are far away from the dance floor. It's the part that nags you while daydreaming in the classroom, or at work, or as you walk down the street to sign on. It's the part that finally convinces the punters to make that trip down to the record shop and buy it. So slip on the 12-inch or your dance compilation and sing along with the breakdown sections. Any old words will do, just whatever comes out of your mouth. If you have difficulty in forming a tune in your head, or you feel a bit inhibited, flick through your copy of the Guinness Book of Hits and pick any top 5 record that takes your fancy and see if you can sing the chorus of it along to the track. Take, for example, That's the Way, Aha, Aha, I Like It, Aha, Aha. That's the Way, Aha, Aha, I Like It, Aha, Aha, by KC and the Sunshine Band. That one usually works and should get you going in the right direction, but there are hundreds to choose from. The lyrics for the chorus must never deal with anything but the most basic of human emotions. This is not us trying to be cynical in a clever sort of way when we say stick to the cliches. The cliches are the cliches because they deal with the emotional topics we all feel. No records are bought in vast quantities because the lyrics are intellectually clever or deal in strange and new ideas. In fact, the lyrics can be quite meaningless in a literal sense, but still have a great emotional pull. An obvious example of this was the chorus of our own record. Doctor Who, hey Doctor Who, Doctor Who in the TARDIS. Doctor Who, hey Doctor Who, Doctor Who, Doctor Who. Gibberish, of course, but every lad in the country under a certain age related instinctively to what it was all about. The ones slightly older needed a couple of pints in them to clear away the mind debris left by the passing years before it made sense. As for girls and our chorus, we think they must have seen it as pure crap, a fact that must have limited to zero our chances of staying at the top 10 for more than a week. Stock, Aiken, and Waterman, however, are kings of writing chorus lyrics that go straight to the emotional heart of the 7-inch single-buying girls in this country. Their most successful record will kick into the chorus with a line which encapsulates the entire emotional meaning of the song. This will obviously be used as the title. As soon as Rick Astley hit the first line of the chorus on his debut single, it was all over. The number 1 position was guaranteed. I'm never gonna give you up. It says it all. It's what every girl in the land, whatever her age, wants to hear her dream man tell her. Then to follow that line with, I'm never gonna let you down. I'm never gonna fool around or upset you. Genius. As soon as they had those lyrics written, they must have known they could have taken out a block booking the number 1 slot. Then within the next 12 months to have written the chorus, I should be so lucky, 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 lucky. I should be so lucky in love. Out of context, as meaningless to lads as our own Doctor Who chorus was to girls, but in those 3 lines, there are many more meanings than there are complete collected works of Morrissey. Stock, Aiken, and Waterman are able to spot a phrase, not actually a catchphrase, but a line that the nation will know exactly what is being talked about, and then use it perfectly. Fun, love, and money, showing out, got to be certain, respectable, toy boy, cross my broken heart. They are ridiculed by much of the media and only have their royalty statements for comfort. History will put them up there with Spector and the boys. Waterman might be loudmouthed, arrogant, narrow-minded self-publicist, but the man has never outgrown his true, deep, and genuine love of now pop music. The year that the pair of us spent working with Stock, Aiken, and Waterman pulled into focus what we learned about pop music through the rest of our lives. Michael Jackson may be the biggest singing star in the world, sold more LPs than any other artist at any time in history of pop, but he has very few UK number 1s. If he would like to make amends on this front, he should start co-writing with the SAW team or read this manual. He has quite a bit to learn with the opening line of a chorus. We have just taken a coffee break from writing this lot, and while in the cafe have come up with the ultimate stock Aiken and Waterman chorus never written. It's called Live In Lover, either performed by Sinita or ideally by a Dagenham blonde called Sharon. Live in lover, I want you to be my live-in lover for eternity. Either use it for yourselves, or we will go and blow what last vestiges of credibility we have to do it ourselves. We can see it now. We'd call the act Sharon Meets the KLF. And of course the B-side would have to be Sharon Joins the Jams. If there are any good-looking Sharons out there that want to be pop stars, please don't hesitate to contact us. We are afraid you can't just go down to the local supermarket and listen to the checkout girls talk and hope you can pick out the right line before Waterman gets to it. The line has to come to you, and when it does, you've got to grab it. Mindlessly singing along to the 12-inch groove track you have is the best way. Morrissey has undoubtedly come up with some of the wittiest titles of the decade. Shakespeare's Sister, Girlfriend in a Coma, William, It Was Really Nothing are classic. However, with titles like these, he will always be guaranteed a non-top 5 placing. We made the mistake of calling our number one Doctorin the Tardis. Obviously, we thought it was a clever play on Cold Cut's Doctorin the House. We had the title before we made the record. If we had had our wits about us, we should have changed it to plain Doctor Who, or at least Hey, Doctor Who. Us trying to be witty clever must have lost us a few all-important sales. Do not attempt writing chorus lyrics that deal in regret, jealousy, hatred, or any other negative emotions. These require a vocal performer of great depth to put it over well. The epic Euro balladeers, or the kings of country, the great soul men, or the crown prince of hate, Johnny Rotten. You should stick to nonsense, pleasure, good times. I want to dance all night long, love you forever, or at least until the morning comes. But nothing too sensual. That too requires too much performance talent. Just remember, there is a difference between bland cliché and cliché, and only you can tell the difference in the context of the song you are constructing. So make sure you find a title that can be used as the opening line in your chorus, and that the chorus is no longer than 8 bars.